Hi, beautiful soul. This is day number 7 of 100 Days to Emotional Power. I'm Dr. Jasmine. Today, I want to talk about something that many people feel and rarely say out loud. And today's subject is feeling invisible around others. And I want to start with a scene that is so common that you might recognize it immediately. You're sitting in a group, maybe family, maybe friends, maybe colleagues, maybe parents at school, and people are talking, laughing, sharing opinions, and you're there physically present. But emotionally, you feel like air. You feel like nobody truly sees you. You feel like you could disappear and nobody would notice. And sometimes you speak, but your words don't land. Someone interrupts you, someone changes the topic, someone responds with a short answer and moves on, and you smile politely, but instead you feel a sting, like a small emotional humiliation. And the strange thing is that you might not even be angry at the people because you know they're not always doing it intentionally. But you still feel pain because invisibility feels like emotional rejection. And what happens after that moment? Many people start shrinking even more. They start talking less, they start doubting themselves, they start thinking maybe I'm boring, maybe I don't have anything valuable to say, maybe I don't belong here. And this is how emotional power gets stolen quietly because the person begins to believe that silence is safer than expression. But, beautiful soul, I want you to understand something very important. Feeling invisible is not always because you're uninteresting. Feeling invisible is often because you have been trained to make yourself small. Many women have been trained since childhood to be polite, to not take too much space, to not be loud, to not be too confident, and not to be too direct, to not be too expressive. They learn to behave like guests in their own lives. And when you behave like a guest, people treat you like a guest. Not because they're evil, but because energy speaks louder than words. I have always repeated it in all my videos. Energy speaks louder than words. And I want to give you a very realistic example. You are at a family gathering and someone is talking loudly about their job, their achievements, their problems, and everyone is listening. You want to share something too, maybe about your life, your dreams, your struggles, but you feel hesitation. You feel that inner thought saying nobody cares, so you stay quiet. Then later, you go home and you feel sadness because you realize nobody asked you about your day. And the truth is, people often don't ask because they assume you're fine. They assume you have nothing urgent to say. They assume you don't want attention, and that assumption is built from your own silence. Another example is you're talking to a friend and you always listen to their stories, their problems, their relationship issues, and you're supportive. You are patient, you're emotionally available. But when you start talking about your own pain, the friend suddenly becomes distracted, changes the topic, and gives a shallow response. And you feel like your emotions are not important. And after a few experiences like that, you stop sharing. You stop sharing. Imagine how disastrous. You become the listener again, and this is how invisibility becomes a lifestyle. Another example is you are married or in a relationship, and your partner talks about their stress, their work, their life, and you listen. But when you express your feelings, they say something like, don't overthink, or it's not a big deal, or they start giving logical solutions without emotional warmth. We communicate sometimes because we want emotional warmth. We're not looking for logical solutions. And the people we're talking to usually understands that we are looking for what. But instead of emotional warmth, they might give us logical solutions in order to get rid of giving you that warmth. And you begin to feel lonely even while being with someone. And that loneliness is one of the deepest forms of invisibility, because it is not the loneliness of being alone, it is the loneliness of being unseen. And when someone is unseen for a long time, they begin to doubt their own reality. They begin to feel like their emotions are too much, their needs are too much, their voice is too much. And that is dangerous, because then the person starts living for others. And I want you to know that emotional power is not shouting, emotional power is not becoming aggressive. Emotional power is the ability to exist with presence. Presence means you are there in your body. Presence means your eyes, your voice, your posture, your energy says, I am here. And you don't need to fight for attention when you have presence. Presence is a silent authority. Let me give you an example of presence. Imagine a woman who enters a room quietly. She doesn't speak loudly. She doesn't show off, but her energy is stable. She sits in a way that shows she belongs. She looks at people with calm confidence. She speaks slowly when she speaks. And suddenly, people notice her. They respect her. They listen. That is presence. And presence is not something you are born with. Presence is something you build. And one of the biggest reasons people feel invisible is because they're emotionally rushing. They speak fast, they explain too much, they apologize too much, they try to be liked. And when you try to be liked, your energy becomes shaky. And people feel that shakiness unconsciously. They don't mean to disrespect you, but they sense that you are not fully standing inside your own space. And I want to give you a strong life example. Imagine you're at a school and you are talking to other parents. Someone asks a question, you answer, but while answering, you laugh nervously. You add extra details. You try to make your answer softer so that nobody feels threatened. You try to be overly humble. And the result is that your message loses weight. And then someone else speaks with fewer words, with confidence, and people listen more. And you feel confused because you might think my answer was smarter. But the truth is, people don't only listen to information, people listen to energy. Another example is you're at work and you share an idea. Someone ignores it. Later, someone else repeats the same idea and everyone says, wow, great point. And you feel angry inside. But often, what happened is not that your idea was bad, it is that your delivery did not carry authority. And delivery comes from inner permission. Many women have brilliant minds, but they don't give themselves permission to occupy space. They speak like they're asking for permission to exist. And that is the emotional root of invisibility. So, today, I want you to reflect gently. How many times in your life did you shrink because you fear judgment? How many times did you swallow your opinion because you didn't want conflict? How many times did you stay quiet because you didn't want to seem arrogant? And I want you to understand that being visible is not arrogance. Being visible is self-respect. Being visible means you stop hiding your existence. And I want to give you a very simple but powerful scene. Imagine you're in a group and you want to speak. Instead of rushing, instead of throwing your words quickly like an apology, you let your voice come slowly. You speak one sentence, you stop. You let the silence hold your words. That silence is not weakness. That silence is authority. Many people fear silence because silence is power. Silence gives weight to your voice. Silence tells people that your words are important. Another example is that you're speaking and someone interrupts you. The old version of you stops and disappears. The emotionally power version of you continues gently and says, let me finish this thought. with a normal tone, not angry, not apologetic, just firm. And that one sentence can change your identity because you are teaching your nervous system that you're allowed to be heard. And if you cannot say that sentence, you can also simply continue speaking without stopping. Because many people interrupt unconsciously, and when you continue, they learn that your voice does not disappear. And I want to mention something that many women will recognize. Sometimes invisibility becomes a habit because you have been living around dominant personalities. Maybe your mother was dominant, maybe your siblings, maybe your partner is dominant. Maybe your workplace has dominant people, and after years of living around loud energy, you trained yourself to survive by becoming quiet, by survival strategies that help in childhood become prisons in adulthood. It's very sad, but we can change it. Emotional power means you stop living with childhood survival strategies. Emotional power means you rewrite your social identity. And I want to say something directly. You do not need permission to take your space. Your existence is already permission. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to be the most rooted person in your own body. And if you want a practical image, imagine you're a tree. A tree does not beg to be seen. A tree does not chase attention. A tree stands. And because it stands, it is seen. Emotional power is becoming like that tree. And maybe today you cannot become a full tree, but you can become a small rooted plant. You can start by showing up differently. You can start by sitting differently. You can start by speaking one sentence without rushing. You can start by making eye contact 1 second longer. You can start by not smiling automatically when you feel uncomfortable. Because many women smile when they feel nervous, and that smile makes people think you are not serious. So today, if you feel invisible, don't blame yourself. Don't shame yourself. That invisibility was a learned protection. It was your way of avoiding pain. But now you're growing. Now you want more. Now you want emotional power. And emotional power means you're allowed to be visible. You're allowed to take space. You're allowed to be listened to. You're allowed to have opinions and allowed to be respected. And I want you to imagine a life where your voice lands, where people take your words seriously, where you feel present in your own body, where you don't feel like a ghost in conversations. That life is possible, and it begins with small changes, not dramatic changes, but consistent changes. Today, choose one situation where you normally shrink and try something different. Speak one sentence slowly. Hold your posture. Let your voice be steady. Let your words breathe. And after you do it, even if your heart beats fast, feel proud because that is emotional power being built. Beautiful soul, my beautiful soul. If this talk touched your heart, subscribe to the channel because this is day 7 of 100 days to emotional power. And every day we build a stronger inner identity. Please like, share, drop your comments, questions, and ideas down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. See you in the next video, my beautiful soul.